It started with the scratching behind the wall. At first, Sarah thought it was just rats, an unpleasant but solvable problem for an old building. She lived alone in a small rented apartment perched right above a quiet, old-fashioned bakery. Her nights were usually filled with a comforting silence, broken only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator. But that all changed. Lately, a new sound had joined the nightly chorus. When the clock struck exactly 3:11 a.m., it would begin, a soft, slow, deliberate scratching. It sounded like nails dragging across old, splintered wood. It wasn't the frantic scurrying of a rodent. This was methodical, patient, and the strangest part, the scratching started following her. If she moved from the living room to her bedroom, the sound would migrate with her, always coming from the wall closest to her. One night, driven by a mix of fear and morbid curiosity, she decided to confront it. She tiptoed to the living room wall, held her breath, and pressed her ear against the cool, floral-patterned wallpaper. The scratching stopped. Silence. And then a whisper. Voice, so faint she almost missed it, slithered through the plaster. It was an unsettling, androgynous tone. Neither male nor female. It murmured two chilling words. Don't look. Sarah recoiled as if she'd been burned. Her heart hammered against her ribs, and her phone, slick with sweat, slipped from her trembling hand, clattering loudly on the hardwood floor. She scrambled backward, her eyes wide, fixed on the spot where the voice had come from. But the voice came again, and this time, it wasn't from the wall. This time, it was closer, much closer. It was right there, inside the room with her. You're not supposed to be here. Panic seized her. She bolted for the front door, her only escape. She grabbed the brass knob and twisted it frantically. It turned. It spun freely in her hand, a useless, disconnected piece of metal. The locking mechanism made no sound. She was trapped. The scratching erupted again, but now it was everywhere, circling her, a frantic, desperate sound as if something was crawling frantically inside the very walls that enclosed her. Then came the smell. A thick, cloying odor of damp earth and decay, like a freshly dug grave, filled her nostrils, making her gag. The single overhead light in the room began to flicker erratically, casting long, dancing shadows. And in one of those brief flashes of light, she saw it. Movement. A ripple behind the wallpaper. A shadow, dark and unnatural, was stretching upward, pressing against the paper from the inside. It was taking shape, distorting the floral pattern into a terrifyingly human outline. The wallpaper bulged, straining against its adhesive. Thin cracks appeared along the seams, a spiderweb of fissures spreading across the wall. The pressure from behind was immense. And then, with a final, violent flicker, the power went out, plunging the entire apartment into absolute, suffocating darkness. And then, silence. An unnerving, total silence that was somehow worse than the scratching. The next morning, the neighbors in the apartment below noticed water stains blooming across their ceiling. Annoyed, they called the landlord. He trudged upstairs to check on Sarah's apartment, grumbling about old pipes. He knocked, then called her name. No answer. When his master key wouldn't work, he had to force the door open, breaking the lock. He found Sarah's apartment completely empty. The door had been bolted from the inside. Nothing seemed out of place, except for one thing. The wallpaper in the living room was new. It had been freshly pasted overnight, so fresh it was still damp to the touch. And as the landlord stared, squinting in the morning light, he saw something strange. Beneath the bubbling, still wet paper, faintly visible, was the unmistakable imprint of two hands, pressing outward as if trying to get out. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.